Uh, hey, Alicia. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Manus. And Manus is a general agent. And everything that you see today, I did with Manus. So normally I do my own PowerPoints, but I wanted to show you what it can actually do. Um, this is a PowerPoint template, and I typed into Manus all the things I wanted to cover today, and it created this PowerPoint. So for once, I can say the errors are AI's and not mine. Um, but anyhow, what Manus is it allows you to use AI to accomplish a complete objective and not just a task. So, for example, when I said I want to give this presentation, I gave it the topic of the presentation, the content I wanted it to cover, and the output I wanted. This is actually a template that Manus provided. So I just wanted to show you the capabilities of there. It's not my own personal branding. Um, and then it gave me final complete PowerPoint. So from my idea, it transformed it into a complete PowerPoint. For those that don't know me, my name is Mark Hinkle. I'm the founder of the AIE Network and the co-founder of All Things AI, which is a live event and meetup group here in the Research Triangle Park of North Carolina. And it was funny because I said, create a good slide for me. And I did not come up with pioneering the future of enterprise AI adoption, but I sort of like it. And I like the connecting leaders with actionable AI strategies. So I pointed it to what my bio, a lot of my data, and it did that. Now, the funny thing is, you see this little yellow icon in the corner. It looked at my history, and what was interesting was it pulled that logo for me, which is one of my newsletters. I would not have pulled that logo, but and it put it into the background, so I couldn't edit it out. So while what I'm going to show you today is really, really cool, these things are not 100% fail safe. So, but I did not edit this at all in PowerPoint. I just downloaded it right before this presentation. So anyhow, a little bit about Manus. It was announced on December 29th that they were being acquired by Meta for $2 billion. They have only been around as a live product for, I believe, around March of last year. I started to use it, and now it's going to be part of the Meta Facebook family. So what is Manus? Manus is an agentic framework, and it's AI that thinks, but it doesn't think very hard. It's not super smart at solving complex problems, but simple problems, it's pretty good. And that's a function of the large language model that is behind it. So there's two models that it was using up until the Facebook acquisition. One was Anthropic Claude, and the other one was Alibaba's Qwen, I believe, or is the other model. And so that's the brain. Beside the brain, it has the access to the ability to use tools. So it has virtual desktops that run like it's a user, like your desktop, but it's virtualized, and then it remote controls that. And then that desktop has the ability to call tools. So in this case, it had probably created all these images using Google's Nano Banana, and it used some other libraries to create this, probably in HTML, and then convert it into PowerPoint, because HTML is a little easier. There's a lot of open source tools to manipulate. And at the end, it also has memory. So after it does something, it can learn. So if I gave it the feedback that said, that's a terrible picture of me, use this picture in the future, it should remember that. It actually went back and it could look at my Google Drive. My Notion is something I use often and has some information around me, and then it can compile that. Now, the thing that's different about Manus is versus maybe ChatGPT or Gemini is that it works on credits. And with your subscription every month, you get so many credits, and those credits allow you to process tokens. And it breaks down all of the language that you put into these tokens and measures them. That's how the API works in OpenAI. That's how the API works in Gemini. But because you're automating this, they want to do tokens so that your usage doesn't break the bank. So far, they've had 80 million plus virtual computers created. So I was saying that it controls these virtual computers, and they have millions of users in 8 months. That's crazy. But the reason they have that adoption is of all the agentic frameworks, I think this is the easiest to use as a desktop computer user, and it's probably one of the fastest and most capable. So this is their mission. Extending human reach by democratizing the power of code. This pulled this from and designed this whole sort of overview from their website when I said I want to talk about Manus. So it did the research and pulled what it thought was most important. So how is this different than maybe a ChatGPT, a Gemini? Is that it's more similar to agent mode in ChatGPT. I like it for a couple different reasons. Is that it is action oriented, but when I use ChatGPT sometimes, or extended deep reach research in Gemini, sometimes they stall. This is really good at completing the entire task. If it gets stalled, it sort of unsticks itself. Whereas I might have to go into ChatGPT and type continue to have it keep going. It really has a really broad number of use cases. I'm going to show you a few today. And what it does is it'll take your workflow, break it down into tasks, complete each task, and go to the next one. When I give it instructions, I typically do give it the steps, but it's pretty good at figuring things out if you're not sure about how to break down a workflow. And let's get into some of the things it can do. So it does 9 core things. It has a browser operator, and that basically means it can go web surf for you. So for example, you could go search for the latest pair of shoes that you wanted. It could go search for the best price, put it in your shopping cart, and then you could take over and you could pay for it. It builds web apps. I'm going to show you the little website it created in a little bit. Deep research or wide research, what it can do is basically think about doing searches in Google, reading all of the search results and collating them. You might do this in Perplexity today, is another large language model plus web search that's very popular. It does AI slides. So these slides are all designed. I did not do any editing of it just because I wanted to show you what it could do right out of the box. Now, normally what I would do is get it pretty close and go do some tweaks, because there's a few little odds and ends, like that icon I showed you earlier that was not quite as good as I would like it to be. But these are all the capabilities, but I'm going to show you the browser operator first. And what I did beforehand was, make sure I can show you that. Yep, let me make it a little bigger. So I asked it to go and search my LinkedIn history of my last 10 posts. I gave it the URL, and it created one of those virtual machines. I can take control of this virtual machine, and it's a little slow. So I ran all of these ahead of time. There is the recording of what it did. So that's my LinkedIn, and you can sort of go through here. And you can see it's trying to log in. And what happened here was I saved my credentials for LinkedIn. That is a security risk. So you got to remember that, if you give it access to act on your behalf as a web browser, that it could do stuff with your credentials you didn't like. But I trusted it could do this because I asked it to read. And let's see if it'll go to live. Yeah, so this is the live. session, and it's actually running that. And what it's doing now is data mining. Because I started this 10 minutes ago, it still hasn't gotten all the way through, but you can see it has gotten to this point. And if you see this little green, let me try and make this actually, I think I should probably make it a little, I'm going to zoom in so it's a little easier for you to read. View. And let's do some plussing right there. Yeah, that's a little bit better to read, I believe. And so I lost the connection, but right here, where when it's green, you can see what the computer's doing. It's actually reviewing my LinkedIn right now and collecting that stuff. Let's go back to the presentation. So you could do almost anything. That was just a quick showing you what the web stuff can do. Wide research. I did not do a big wide research because I think it's not an interesting demo, but basically say I wanted to look at all of the reports processed by reputable sources like McKinsey, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the US government this year, and collate 100 different stats on AI adoption. You could do that. And what it's basically doing is creating little agents that are doing all those searches, taking all that data and synthesizing it into one thing. And you notice I told it not to do a live demo of wide research, but it put the live demo in there. So normally I would just go in and take it out, but and it's not that hard to do. But this happened. I created this PowerPoint in maybe 10 minutes of work just to make my point today. So AI slides. Let me show you the history of me making the slides here. So if I open this up, and here's the overview. Hopefully it will I loaded all this stuff so that we didn't have to wait, but here's the whole history. This is all the prompt I gave it, and I just gave it pretty broad instructions. I said, create a presentation on Manus.im, what it is and the features, create slides after each major feature, and I'll do a quick demo. Goal was to cover this in 20 minutes. I don't know that it did a good job because it gave me a lot of stuff for 20 minutes, but basically here's what it did is it came up with that. It took these actions. And I actually, if you notice here, use the style from the attached presentation to inform branding. Well, the style was, it's too big, it's not going to show, was white slides with black and orange. What it did initially looked like this. So the one gotcha is, I noticed, remember I said that uses credits. If it does something wrong, you're going to burn credits to do this, and then you have to do it again. That's the downside of this, but these are pretty nice looking slides. And there are a couple things that are a little weird, like this one is, it tried to put an image in there. It didn't do a great job. And you could actually go in and edit slides at specific times, which is what I did by chatting. But once you make the edits, it can't go back. And then I went down and I said, well, let's just show them how to do this with images or with the templates right from Manus, and it did all that. But you know, I pretty much had very little interaction with this to get it done. And the question in the chat is it able to create Google Slides or PowerPoint? That is a great question. You can edit in Google Slides is how it's the preferred edit. But if you want to download, you can download in PowerPoint, PDF, convert to Google Slides. You can just save it to Google Drive, or you could save it to your OneDrive. And so I have actually gone in and connected this using some the settings here and used connectors. So I connected it to my Google Drive, my Gmail, my Notion, but you can connect it to a bunch of different stuff. Make.com, you can connect it to PayPal and Stripe if you wanted it to do e-commerce. I don't think I would be very comfortable doing that. Webflow, all sorts of stuff. HeyGen is cool. HeyGen does video avatars, so I could actually work on connecting that to create videos. For all you know, I could be an AI avatar right now. I'm not, but that's how you could use it. All right. So that's how I did the presentation. And I'm going through this pretty quickly because the program to do for today is supposed to be 30 minutes, but I'll stick around and answer questions as long as you like. One of the things that's really cool is it's a pretty decent web app builder. So I wanted to build a little website, and let's go. So I do something called the Artificially Intelligent Enterprise, and I have the Artificially Intelligent Operating System is where I put my training stuff. And so I said, create a website for the AI OS. So I wanted to point it to an existing website. I gave it some directions. I actually had it look at some things from my Google Drive. So I did an AI for executives and an AI for business professionals presentation. It could read that for context. And then it built this, right here. I told it that I want to have a placeholder for the Senja is how I take reviews. I put it in there. I could have given that up front, but I wanted to see what it would do. The downside is it didn't do a great job of matching my color and branding from the original website, but it did make a nice website. And then I can go in and I can edit this by highlighting it. I can change it with the web editor. I can describe a change and say, hey, I don't want this is called a hamburger menu there. You could actually chat with the website. And if I put a couple of things together, I could do that. Now, yesterday I met with my friend Casey, and he actually just shared what he did in 2 hours. So he's a AWS solution architect, and he wanted to do a portfolio. So this took him 2 hours, and he was blown away. It talked about all of his work that he did. He created a contact page or contact section, linked it from the hamburger, all in 2 hours. And it looks cool and funky, and he's a cool and funky guy, so it worked well. Rebecca let me stop. How do you avoid wasting credits from Natick? That is the downside. The way to avoid wasting credits is really a matter of like, here's my credits. So I get these free credits. I had referred some people, and I got some add-on credits, and every day it refreshes 300 every day during the month, and then it gives me, I think, 19,000 credits. Pretty decent. Rebecca's asking if we can interact with existing WordPress templates. I would say the best AI way to do that right now, Rebecca, is through Elementor, which is a web editor, but I would like to see, and I've thought about creating an MCP server for WordPress that would actually allow it to do those things. I've been waiting for that. I'm surprised it's not launched yet. I think there might be an MCP WordPress server plugin right now, but I haven't tried it. Maranatha asked, how do you feel Manus compares with Notebook LM? I think Notebook LM is very capable, but it is not nearly as complex. It is every time I go back to Notebook LLM, I find that it can do some more stuff. So the big thing that's cool about Notebook LM is it can synthesize a lot of data and does a really good job. I think the Gemini LLM model, like we said, this one is driven by Anthropic, is pretty darn good, and it does a nice job using Nano Banana to generate slides. Let me keep going here, and then I'll stick around and answer all your questions. Let's see. AI design, here's an example of how I've been writing a book, and I wanted it to create black and white illustrations of for my book. And if it has a very big amount of usage, it will stop. And let's see if it'll tell you right here. I wanted it to create 30 color illustrations, and it will say wide research here, and it will also warn me if it's going to use a lot of credits, and that disappeared, I think. But before I could go on, it'll say, hey, this is going to use roughly 1,000 credits. So to the question about that, it's pretty interesting. And then you can see the images it created in this task. I think I asked it to create black and white illustrations. I can download those, and it's probably a couple hundred megabytes, but we'll do that. But what it did was it read all the chapters, came up with themes for it, and created a bunch of stuff. And I think I already downloaded this earlier, so let's see if I can. That's another thing, is I'm actually redoing work here, so I may be better off to not duplicate efforts, because essentially what I just did was burn some credits for that download as well. Not a lot, but still, it's a little wasteful. And let's see if I can find that download. Okay. And we'll go in here and just take a look. So I had a certain style I wanted for every chapter, and this is an example of, I wanted to look like comics, and it looked and it saw that this character's name is Victor, and he's talking about a failure in AI. But that looks like something that could have been a dark novel, and that's what I wanted to do there. Let's see, next thing it can do. So it has integrations with all these things. It connects with a lot of your common things. So you could go through and say, mine my Gmail for every email I had with Christine, who's here on the show. It would find all of our conversations for last month. And I'm like, create a report of what we talked about, so we could talk about how we did for the month. It can also connect with web APIs, and then MCP, which I mentioned before, is Model Context Protocol. And that's sort of like the USB-C of AI. It gives you the ability to consistently connect to different systems for these agents. And, Claude supports that. ChatGPT supports that. Gemini has very, very limited support for it. I think they've been getting more and more aggressive with it, but they're very, very conservative on that part of their agentic systems for consumers. You could take your documents and process that. So say you had procedures and you're a multinational company, you could take your English documents and it could do a really decent job of translating it. And then one of the sort of cheat codes that I use is I like to have it check its work. So I usually create a little set of checklists, like review this. And if I had it converted to Spanish, I'm like, review this as if you were a, from Mexico and you speak that localized version to make sure it was good. You can do all sorts of stuff. You could, like, if you have a shared folder and you're dropping in reports every so often, it could look at those reports and look for trends. It could send you email reminders. It could batch them up at the end of the month. So if you had weekly reports and you want a monthly report, it could do all that. And it can do it with natural language. So someone's asking about, how do I feel it compares with AI Studio or Lovable? Well, Lovable is a way to make applications specifically. This can make applications, but it's more of a general use. And then Google AI Studio is a little bit more fine-grained and a little bit more, allows you a little bit more manual intervention to create your agents. But I have not played with it in the last 3 weeks. So they probably have added more features with the AI automation. The one thing we should talk about is security. So you can I can authorize my browser in there. So it keeps my authorization to log into things like LinkedIn, my website, things like that. And I can revoke that. It can provide a list of everything it did as well, so that like, oh, it updated a web page and it was this web page and this is what it does. So it does good logging. It's very, very hard to control every single step, but it's really good at auditing when it's done. So it's part of Meta right now. I don't know how that will change that, Manus, but I think it will probably. Right now, we talked about it was using Quen and Claude as the model. It probably, I would assume, will use Llama, which is the one that Meta develops. So Natick asks, LinkedIn and some other websites don't let you interact with agents. And that's true, but what we are doing is actually interacting with a browser that you've authenticated in. So when I showed you that, it was, I was actually showing you the browser where I gave it the credentials, and then it was like remote control. And then when I want to take over, I can actually take over and I can type in it. So what happened was, the first time I went in, I put in my username and password, and then I have two-factor authentication, and I approved the entrance from Manus. So it is interacting with an agent, but it's actually just LinkedIn is interacting with a browser, and the browser is controlled by an agent. So you can start using Manus for free. It's very cool. It's easy. On the reminders, I put a link in there. If you use my referral link, you'll get 500 additional free credits as part of the plan. Also, if you want to play around with this and get some more training on this, we do, in March, we're doing All Things AI. All Things AI has a training day on March 23rd in Durham, North Carolina. And I will be doing 7 or 8 hours of training. One of the things I'll be training on is Manus. So thanks for coming today. I've tried to get you through this in 30 minutes, but I'm happy to answer questions for as long as you have them. Question is, how do we use it for free? If I share this with you, I'll put this in the chat. Here's the link. It doesn't cost you anything. I get credits when I refer someone, but you get 500 free to try Manus. So if you like it, then I think the billing is, let me see what I pay for it. Probably too much as everything else. So I pay $39 a month, and I had a big project. If you look back here, in August, I spent $1,300 doing a ton of work on there, and that was crazy. And then I switched plans and I throttled it. Yeah, so Angela says $20 a month is the lowest. You know, and you can see there's different things that I will do. So one of my favorite things to do with AI is just review things. So I have a course and I wanted to get feedback on the course, and um, you know, I wanted to see, you know, what it would tell me was important. So I wanted some supporting data. I had it went out and searched. Now, if you notice, this is written in Markdown, and the Markdown is sort of a isn't sort of, it's a language that actually that marks all the different things in the document with descriptions. So it knows that this is a header, and that it makes it easy to convert it from Word to HTML. Now, here's the thing that was interesting is this is one of the things, it's not perfect. I think it's trying to create a bookmark so that you can click down from the index, and that's broken. This one is broken, and it could be a function of the reader, or it could be a function of that. Maranatha asked, what do you think the cost would be to build a typical website? I would say it's pretty cheap. Let's see if it shows me how many credits it took me to build that. So a 5-page corporate website, and let's see if it said, the task. Okay. So here's an example of this website. I think has about 5 pages. Just to do the original site, it was 265 credits. And if I get 19,000 credits for $40, I would guess, till you do all your edits, Maranatha, it would be a couple thousand credits, which is still, you know, maybe if it's 2,000 credits, that's 5% of $40 roughly. So it's like 80 cents. Sam is asking, is it worth monthly plan or use other different free tools? How is it different from Comment Browser? So Comment Browser has some agentic features on it. I do not use Comment, or Comment, I believe, is by Perplexity, and Atlas is by ChatGPT, because I think that it can be a little dangerous. I have given it some instructions to say, ask me before you make any changes or enter any data into my memories of Manus. But depending on the use case, it's pretty decent. I'm not sure that Comet or Atlas has the same tool calling ability as Manus does. I think you can integrate them, but I think it's still some work. Cool. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer questions as long as you have them, but I also want everybody to make sure they have time to grab their lunch or do what they want. Next week, what we are going to talk about is on meetup.com, or actually we'll talk in webinar. No, we'll do meetup. We have Boz Vitranova. Boz is a corporate trainer for a company called Team Lift, and she is going to talk about how to use your Copilot licenses. A lot of us have access to Copilot, but we don't really use it because a lot of people don't get training. So she's going to provide some tips and tricks on this. So cool. Rebecca's asking, thank you, Rebecca. That's very kind of you. Is the recording available? It will be. What I'll do is I'll edit it quickly and probably post it tomorrow on YouTube, so it's easy to share with everyone. and I will put in my link to Manus to hopefully get people some more free credits to play around. So if there's no other questions today, thanks for your time, everyone. We're going to try and do these every Tuesday at noon, and we're going to cover a lot of different topics. Hopefully, we want a quick hit that makes you curious about AI and gives you some actionable stuff. So, thanks, Aaron. That was very nice of you as well. Everyone have a good day. See you soon.